Looking for real stories that lift you up? Welcome to Inspire and Impact, the podcast where purpose meets perseverance. This is where transformation begins and your story continues.
Welcome to the Inspire and Impact podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Rosenstein. The show features real conversations with thought leaders, healers, entrepreneurs, and creatives who share their journeys of growth, purpose, and making meaningful impact. Today, I'm interviewing Robyn Michelle. Robyn, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you share a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Definitely, yes. My name is Robyn. As you already said, it just feels awkward to not start with that. That's I'm introducing myself. But I am living currently in the beaches of North Carolina, which was a huge switch for me. So about my background and how I ended up where I am. I grew up in Maryland, and then I moved to Pennsylvania after I graduated high school, where I lived for almost 25 years. But when I was in Pennsylvania, I got married twice. I got divorced twice. After my second divorce, I took 3 years to focus on myself, love myself, discover myself, find what my goals were, my passion. And that's how I made a huge life switch. I moved hundreds of miles away from my home on my own for the first time in my entire life. I'd always been with somebody up until that point. My first marriage was your classic abusive, verbally, mentally, emotionally, narcissistic, abusive relationship. And I was married for 16 years in that relationship. I finally left after I decided one day, we tend to stay in relationships longer than we should. Other people think we should, but it's what we do. We do each day. And after 16 years, I finally left. And my next relationship, I fell madly in love. I thought complete opposite person than what I was married to before. Too good to be true. What a blessing. We were married for 5 years, and then he had an affair. So I was completely devastated after that happened. And that's when I decided I'm going to take 3 years and not date. I date myself. I set new goals. I focus on myself. I moved across the country or down the coast, I guess. And it was a life-changing experience for me.
So what inspired you to write your book, The Desire to Love Myself?
That is inspired by my experiences and overcoming them. Realizing after failed marriages that we're not going to find love in other people if we don't find love within ourselves first. That's why I intentionally took several years of dating, trying to find a new relationship, and just focused on myself. And as I was doing that, I was also writing and journaling. I've always been a journaler. As long as I can remember, I journaled. And as I was journaling, I'm going to share these thoughts that I have and experiences that I've had with the world. If it even helps one person, that's my goal. But truly, my goal was to do it for myself, to prove to myself that I could do this. I could step outside of my comfort zone. I could share what I had experienced. I could start conversations and help other people. They're going through. There's always other people going through similar things. Many times people don't talk about the hard things because the hard things are hard to talk about. But the more we talk about them, the more it brings us together. It unifies us. We can lean on each other. We can grow from shared experience. We can have that support system that we need.
So, are you kind of saying that, like, many years ago, did you feel like you didn't love yourself? Like, during your first marriage and before then?
Well, I'm very introverted and shy. I had a very small network of friends, but I didn't really go out much. I didn't do a lot. And then as I got older, fell into this relationship where I was constantly being ridiculed and put down. People need to accept that. And I think that the longer we're in those relationships, We feel trapped, we feel isolated in the worst we feel about ourselves. And it takes a long time to heal from.
So was there like a particular like defining moment when you said, okay, I need to start working on myself and my self-love?
After I found out about my husband's affair, I went through the entire grieving process. We do. But it was then that I realized I need to, and it was through writing, through journaling, the process of thoughts. I realized instead of staying where I am, I need to figure out where I want to be. And that was the defining moment. Where do I want to be and who do I want to be? And how can I use everything that I've been through, grow from that, learn from that, and get there?
I mean, in the book, you mentioned about like, all those different life lessons, that you learned over the years. Was there one particular lesson that stands out for you that you like to share with the audience?
One lesson in 47 years. That's, yes, actually, there is. I feel like in all of my learning and growing through all of my experiences and focusing on myself, one of the most valuable things we do for ourselves is to love ourselves so much that we stop worrying about what other people think of us. And that was another reason why I continue to do things that I'm doing with writing my books, trying to be on podcasts, and start one of my own eventually, do some engagements and things like that. Because one thing is growing your confidence. As you start to love yourself, you grow your confidence, you realize you're drawn towards your purpose and where things start to unfold for you. And as you're doing these things, you start to hear less and less about what other people do, and you realize what really matters is yourself. Is what I'm doing in line with my values? Is it in line with my goals? Is it something I care about and I'm passionate about? You start thinking about that's when it all just comes together. You can start living authentically without fear.
Have you always been like, like a writer? Did you always like write a lot?
I love writing. I have been a huge journaler for as long as I can remember. I remember writing in middle school and in high school. I had a journal, I had a diary, as a lot of young girls do. I did stop for a little while, and I was just thinking about this the other day, actually, that I remember when I was in school, I had some ups and downs, as everyone does in high school, right? And I got in some trouble, and I got home from work one day. When I walked to the door, there was a dad sitting on the floor, and my dad and my stepmom, they were sitting on the couch and they were waiting to tell me that I had one phone call back at the leave. 2 months before my high school graduation, I was kicked out of the house. I wasn't allowed to go upstairs and grab any clothes or any sentimental items or anything like that. I could only they had already. I didn't know why. My journal was. And several months later, I was at my grandparents' house with my mom, and my granddaddy said something, which was a reflection from something I had written in my journal. I knew it. And I thought to myself, he read my journal. My dad read my journal and gave it to my mom. She read my journal, gave it to my granddaddy and my grandma, and they read it. And I felt so violated. So I stopped writing for a while because I didn't want anything that I'd ever written to be seen by anybody and to feel that way again. But then when I was in the midst of my first marriage and my husband was talking down on me and yelling, we were having arguments, things like that, I began writing again. It was an outlet. When you go through arguments and there's tension in the house and you're feeling so badly, it's all jumbled up in your mind and you don't know what to do with it. So when you start writing it down, all of those different thoughts, all the thoughts of everything he said, everything you said, how did that start? what could I have done to prevent this from it's always my fault, or it was always someone's fault. Keep those things out of your mind and you put them on paper one at a time. Slowly just frees you. Also, when you have a lot of thoughts going through your mind, you feel it in your entire body. Stress, peace, comfortable. You don't want to eat. All you want to do is eat. But it says put them on paper. You can see them from an outside perspective. The process.
Yes.
Just for you, adrenaline really helped you a lot in your healing journey.
After I found out about my husband's affair, I lived with my friends actually for a little while because I didn't have an apartment between moving out of our home with his home and then moving into an apartment. So for a couple months I lived with my friends. There were days I didn't eat in bed, bring myself to bed. But I wrote that was therapeutic and healing. That that's what you go through when you're going through things like that. You have to experience emotions. You have to embrace them. You can't push them aside or push them down. But if you do, they're going to bubble up some other time, some other way. So you have to allow yourself to feel feeling and just the process, emotions. But part of going through the process for me was journaling.
Now, on the website, you talked about the power of positive thinking. Why do you believe so strongly in the power of positive thinking? And is thinking positively really enough, or do you have to also incorporate other methods and strategies in your healing process?
Yeah, we believe strongly in the power of positive thinking. Negative thoughts, you're going to see the negative around you towards you. Positive thoughts, think that there are to be grateful for. You have an attitude of gratitude. You're going to also attract more positivity. So I do believe greatly in the power of positive thinking. I also believe in the power of vision boards. The goals, plan, you write it down, in front of you, where you go right in the spaces, you're accountable, keep it driven. But being positive, intentional with your thoughts is huge because we all just and through the thoughts that come in. But we have to be intentional about turning them around. Just thought so no, I'm not going to think like that and find something to be grateful for. Negative people don't like me very much because they'll complain or say something negative, and I will every single time point out the silver lining because there's always something to be grateful for in every situation. But it is more than that. I mean, you also have to take steps. And just think, I'm going to have $1 million and it's just going to fall in your lap. If you want to earn money, you have to work towards it. Yes, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do that. I'm going to have a positive attitude about it. The combination of two gets you where you want to be.
So what's your perspective on imposter syndrome? And have you ever experienced it?
Always. I feel like that is one of my probably biggest challenges is to overcome imposter syndrome. That's something else where the power of positive thinking comes in. We have to constantly be reminding ourselves, I am good enough. I can do this. I am worthy. I am deserving. The thing about imposter syndrome, it sneaks in and it tries to bring us down. It tries to keep us from getting to our destination and reaching our goals. So some of the things that I do is I remind myself, like I said before, no one else matters. So whatever it is I'm working toward, if an imposter syndrome is, you're not good enough, everybody's crazy, that you have to remind yourself, I'm not doing this for anyone else's goal. I'm doing this for myself. And remind yourself also, that as long as what you're doing makes yourself proud, that's all that matters. I feel like a lot of people struggle with imposter syndrome. It's not something that people talk about very often. But another thing is when we're reminding yourself you're doing something outside your comfort zone. And that's when it usually sets in. When you're doing something new or doing something different, so when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, outside of your box, it tends to be when, or my from us and says, oh, who do you think you are to do that? And that's when we have to intentionally change our thoughts and say, I'm going to do this. I can do this. I'm worthy of this. I deserve this.
So what would you say to somebody if they're thinking I'm not good enough or it's too late in my life to change my life? What advice can you give to people who see, those type of things?
It's never too late. And it really is as simple as that. Like, I don't have a long drawn out thing to say about that. Really, if anybody thinks it's too late, it's never too late. As long as you're still living and breathing, you have purpose. And also, the things that we want to keep to ourselves, they're a part of who we are, right? Now, they are, I like to think they're part of our DNA. The things that we desire in life is a compilation of what we like, what we're good at, what we care about, what we're passionate about, what our talents and our gifts are. Sort of our makeup. So then when we think, I want to write a book. I love to write. I love to read. I love to go to libraries. I love to smell books even. Old bookstores are my favorite because of the way that, you walk in and the old pages smell. So all of that kind of leads in the direction where you're supposed to go when you think about, and that's another reason why self-love is so important, because when you start to really focus on yourself, being true to yourself, exploring, who am I? What do I like to do?
Yes.
It guides you towards where you're meant to be.
So how do you help people rewrite their narratives through your coaching process?
One of the things that I do is ask the difficult questions. What's stopping you? What's holding you back? What are you afraid of? Usually if somebody has a goal they want to work toward, what's stopping them tends to mostly be fear. Fear of failure, fear of what other people think, fear of success even. So finding out what the roadblock is, how we can move past it. I think that with helping people through coaching, one of the things is, if you look or you think about it, a lot of people have many different relationships in life, right? Not one person is meant to be someone's everything. You have that friend that you go to that's going to tell you what you need to hear. You have that friend that you go to that's going to tell you what you want to hear. You have that friend, right? You have that person you go to let loose a little bit. You have that person that you go to for a relationship. Not one person can be your everything. Coaching, you can be that person that's going to hold you accountable, ask you the hard questions, push you further than you thought you could go. We can always do more than we realize. That's how you see results.
Can you maybe share one of your stories of one of your clients you help them with their transformation?
Sure. And this was a long time ago, actually, before I even got into coaching that long ago. But I had one of my friends came to me because her daughter was stuck. She was a young mom in a young relationship, and she had these desires to go to school and to do these things that she wanted to do. A lot of young moms don't have a lot of extra time or a lot of extra money. So just helping her figure out, okay, what is it you want to do? How can we prioritize that? Sometimes it's a matter of what can you put out. Sometimes it's just a matter of how can you prioritize. I remember always hearing when I was growing up, you have time to do what you make time to do. Really good at making So we come up with a plan. We overcome some of those barriers, and she ended up going to cosmetology school, getting her cosmetology license, and now she's super happy working, wanting to start her own business rather than working for someone else. That's the next goal that we're working on. So I feel like that's like my first success story, and that's why I love it so much. It was my success story is her success story. I just helped her get there.
What do people misunderstand about self-love?
I think a lot of people go fish, right? It's not. It's essential. It's essential to put yourself first. It's essential to take care of yourself, your mind, and your body, and your soul, your spirit. Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you have nothing left with anyone else. Everyone around you will suffer.
Do you have any particular rituals or strategies you practice every day to help keep yourself grounded and focused?
I do. I have beautiful morning routine that I love. I used to be one of those girls that would get up 20 minutes before it was time to leave the house. I'm like brushing my teeth with one hand and looking for clothes with another, and brushing my hair and putting it in a bun, and that'll do for today. Getting a cup of coffee and running out the door. Always 5 minutes late for work. Just I wanted to hug the sheets as long as possible. Anytime I would talk to somebody who said they got up early to drink coffee and read the paper or do the crossword puzzle, I thought that's just wild to me that somebody wouldn't sleep in as long as they possibly could, because I just love telling. The older I got, into 30 minutes before it's time to leave, and 45 minutes before it's time to leave, and an hour, and now I'm getting up like 2.5 hours early so I can do my morning routine. It sets the tone for the entire day. But in that time, I have time to do my reading, my journaling, sitting down with my coffee and my phone, doing some scrolling and my word puzzle, drink 3 cups of coffee, get some chores done, and think that just having that solid morning routine sets for the entire day keeps me grounded. Sometimes I'll even go for a walk. I spend a lot of time outdoors walking. Those are the things I do to be grounded, and I always am intentional about doing that in the morning. Because if you wait until later in the day, chances are you're going to put it off.
Great. So, how can somebody recognize that they're living for somebody else versus, living for themselves?
I feel like that if you start to feel resentful, you're living for someone else and for yourself. Of course, when we're with somebody, we want everybody to be happy all the time. We want to make them happy. We want to do things we appreciate. We want them to reciprocate that. Try to become a balance. We're doing more of the work. We're doing more of the compromising. You start to feel resentment with that person. And as that resentment grows, that's when you're like, I'm definitely not living for myself, living for someone else. And I think one thing people miss is having conversations about it. Right? So conversations is so simple, but not having this conversation in the heat of the moment. If you are frustrated about something and you're feeling that frustration inside, probably not the best idea to say, it is. But maybe on a random Tuesday, when you're sitting in front of the couch saying, you know what, I really wish it would really help me, and I would feel really appreciated if we could do such and such. But we could split this way, that would help me, instead of just letting it continue to fester and boil up inside.
Now, a lot of people deal with people-pleasing issues. What advice do you give to people dealing with people in terms of first steps of how they can get out of it?
Yeah, people pleaser here. I am a big-time conflict avoider, people pleaser. I was much in the habit of always saying, point where I would be double booked. I kept going on. I just wanted to get everybody happy. I was feeling bad. I was tired. I was wore out. I think that what's helpful for people to understand is that it's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence. I'm sure you've heard that. Many people have heard no is a complete sentence. Someone asks you to do something, you don't owe them an explanation or a reason as to why you do it. Saying no is really hard for some people. So there are alternatives. But let me think about that and get back to you. Just don't commit right away. This isn't going to work for me right now. Oh, thanks. Appreciate you asking. I'm just going to be able to do it. Really, you don't have any why you can't do what they ask you to do. You can just not right at this time, no.
So what could somebody expect about the 30-minute discovery call with you, as Daniel as a coach?
Yeah, so if someone books a discovery call, I like to spend, 15 minutes to 30 minutes just talking about what they would expect from a coach and what their goals are. Kind of let the conversation happen naturally from there. I like just getting to know people and allowing people to get to know me. I want to ask me questions too, because it's fit. And after that, we come up with an action plan, we come up with a schedule for when we get sessions. And also, homework. We all just talk and then go about our day. Accountability there. And I'll send a follow-up email afterward, and then an email before to, just see what you're doing. And have any questions in between too.
So who's your ideal client you like to work with?
I don't like to not say I wouldn't want to work with anybody in particular, but I do tend to work more with women. I feel like a lot of women really understand. There's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of similar situations, right? And so a lot of people, I feel like, based on their experience, things. That's who I like working with.
That's great. I mean, so how do you help people build healthy boundaries? Because that seems to be also like a really big issue when it comes to like relationships.
It's important for people to realize that boundaries are a good thing, that boundaries are for self-preservation. They're care. That people violate our boundaries, that not us problem, that's a them problem. Those who care about you and respect you, they will respect your boundaries.
And what's, in your point of view, what's the link between having self-confidence and mental clarity?
So self-confidence continues to daily build within yourself when you start to focus on yourself, taking care of yourself, loving yourself, discovering who you are, being your authentic self, and worrying about other people think of you. As you say, right, through this, I don't know that they're different. They're different. I don't know that I can compare the two, so they're very different. But the mental clarity also comes with self-discovery. As you're doing these things for yourself, take care of yourself and your well-being. Start to have clarity about what direction you want to go. And also, I feel when you're doing that and you're actively taking steps forward, the path also unfolds before you. What you're meant to do, where you're meant to be, will not pass you by. What's meant for you will not pass you by. So when you're in confidence is contagious. You can get confidence from. There are times when even as a person doubt. Everyone has doubts, but you remind yourself that positive affirmation and positive thinking again. Wait, I can do this.
Good job.
And you know what? It's okay if I do this and I fall flat on my face, because I did it and I learned from it. and I'll do it better next time.
So all these like techniques and strategies, did you learn some type of training to learn all these things, or did you learn it through like your experiences, or kind of combination of both?
I mean, wisdom comes from experience, right?
Yeah.
I have a wealth of wisdom from experience, but I also do a lot of reading. I watch a lot of YouTube influencers who, speak on the same thing. I've taken some classes, things like that. Actually, the classes I've taken, they were a long time ago. I'm not even sure they're relevant today, but for anything that we could find, it was many years ago when I was in the midst of my first marriage. I needed to be surrounded by something that would lift me up. And I also do, I forgot. There's something else I was going to say, but it's like my mind.
I know you're also like a motivational speaker, right?
Right. That reminds me, yes, that
Yeah.
I had also done therapy and I've had mentors myself. Yes. And I do currently do motivational speaking as well, mostly to encourage self-love, but also to share my story, because I feel like the more that we talk about it, the less power it has over us, but also it will bring people together through shared experiences.
So how was the book that you wrote helped you in your healing journey?
It helps me because, for one thing, myself do it. It was the first time that I had ever done anything by myself without anyone else's approval, without worrying about anybody else's approval. Just the fact that I did it helped me healing. Makes sense. You know what I mean? Just putting yourself out there on a daily basis, it's the hardest thing to do. Allowing other people to know what's actually going through your mind. So vulnerable. And then after I published my book, I thought to myself, even for weeks, I've done it. Should I take that down? No, if I want that out there. And I kept reminding myself, I do this for anybody else. If nobody buys it, if people read it and they don't like it, I didn't do that for them. I did this for me, and I'm really proud of myself for accomplishing this.
If your younger self would have read the book that you wrote, 20, 30 years ago, I mean, what do you think that she would have said and thought reading that book?
If my younger self knew my older self wrote that book, he would have been really proud and excited, because I've always wanted to be a writer. I wanted to write children's books, though. And what I ended up writing was self-reflective, real life lesson book that I just wanted to share. That now, if you would have made any different decisions, because I've read a lot of books like that when I was going through the hard things, but I still stayed in those difficult situations. But I would have had that knowledge. I would have had that. I would have felt connected to someone probably that I could relate to.
So what type of like legacy or impact do you hope that your coaching and your book and your speaking are going to offer to people?
I hope that, I want people to know that if they're in a different situation, no matter what it is, everyone has the power within themselves to be resilient, to take that situation and grow through it. Put it right down. Use it for good. I feel like that part of the healing process isn't just going through the grief, doing the healing work, but it's also the taking everything that you've been through, everything that you've learned, everything that you know, and helping someone else.
I mean, so how can people start loving themselves if they're still like in a bad situation, if their outer circumstances haven't changed yet?
And it's hard. It's really difficult to do. I think that one of the biggest steps, got it. to find a person that you know you can be honest with and to start talking about it.
What advice do you give to somebody who may want to write a book, but they're too afraid to write a book? And they think they're not good enough, or it has to be perfect, and
Yeah. I mean, that goes back to the whole imposter syndrome thing, right?
Yeah.
Who am I to do such a thing? And then just, reminding yourself, this is something that's a huge desire of yours. Not only is it part of who you are because our destiny is leading business, but it's also, it's something, if you don't do it, you continue thinking to do that. And it's one of those ideas that continues to fester and won't go away. When we don't listen to that voice, that's when we start to have regret. So whether it's successful or whether it's not, whether people read your book or they don't, whether people buy your product, whether they don't, people give you bad reviews, that's a them, that's not a you issue. Right? So just reminding yourself why you're doing it. Reminding yourself that you are good enough, you are worthy, you deserve this, and you can do this.
So somebody had a question about a conversation. Jay, I'm interested in working with you for your coaching. What's the best way they can reach out to you?
Through my website or my email. My website has a connection card, or you can just email me directly. And I believe I gave you all of that information.
Yeah, we'll make sure that your website and social media links will be in the show notes of the podcast. Do you have any final messages you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up our podcast for today?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. But also, I just want people to be empowered to live authentically themselves without fear of what other people think. To chase your dreams and know you can achieve them. And to know whatever it is you're going through, you should be the most resilient person you know.
Ronald, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today. I know you've been through a lot with your relationships and your journey about learning about self-love, and I'm sure that you've learned a lot of wisdom along the way. And congratulations on your book that was published. And I appreciate you sharing all this, your wisdom with our audience today. And thank you for being authentic and being yourself. I know that's something to do.
Yeah, thank you so much.